Facebook to pay record $5 billion to settle FTC privacy claims. Facebook has agreed to pay a record $5 billion to resolve a U.S. investigation into years of privacy violations, a settlement that increases the board of directors' responsibility for protecting users' data while changing little about the company's lucrative advertising business. The agreement, announced Wednesday by the Federal Trade Commission, will for the first time end CEO Mark Zuckerberg's final authority over privacy decisions, creating an independent privacy committee of directors on the company's board, according to an FTC statement. The accord will also require Facebook to keep a tighter leash on third-party apps, perform regular sweeps for unencrypted passwords and refrain from using telephone numbers obtained for security purposes for advertising. It also calls, the agreement will require a fundamental shift in the way we approach our work, and it will place additional responsibility on people building our products at every level of the company, Facebook said in a statement. It will mark a sharp, still, the agreement, which was approved by the FTC's Republican majority by a vote of 3-2, does little to alter Facebook's structural data collection practices, which are at the heart of its business model. While the fine is, the magnitude of the $5 billion penalty and sweeping conduct relief are unprecedented in the history of the FTC, Chairman Joseph Simons said in a statement. The relief is designed, while the fine is the largest ever imposed by the FTC for a privacy violation, it didn't satisfy the agency's two Democratic commissioners, Rebecca Kelly Slaughter and Rohit Chopra, who voted against it. When companies can violate the law, pay big penalties, and still turn a profit while keeping their business model intact, enforcement agencies cannot claim victory, Chopra said in a statement. He said the settlement, Slaughter said, that given Facebook's repeated violations, the FTC would have been more likely to change the company's behavior by suing it and its CEO. The deal is also unlikely to mollify critics in Congress and among privacy advocates who have called for accountability for Zuckerberg, fines that represent a greater share of the company's revenue and the unwinding of Facebook's acquisition of Instagram and WhatsApp. The FTC probe stems from the March 2018 disclosure that Cambridge Analytica, a consulting firm hired by Donald Trump's 2016 presidential campaign, improperly obtained data on tens of millions of Facebook users from a researcher who collected personal data through a third-party quiz app. The app, not only the Cambridge Analytica scandal, dealt a blow to Facebook's reputation at a time when the company was already under fire for allowing Russian agents to exploit its platform to try to influence the 2016 election. The company's battered Facebook also resolved an ongoing investigation by the Securities and Exchange Commission Wednesday. The agency fined. The FTC also announced separate settlements with the now-defunct political consulting firm, its former CEO Alexander Nix, and an app developer who worked with the company, Alexander Kogan. The agency's investigation went far beyond issues around Cambridge Analytica. The FTC Facebook also announced in 2014 that it would stop letting outside app developers collect data of users' friends, according to the FTC. However, under the settlement, Facebook will have to report data compromises to the FTC if more than 500 users are affected, terminate apps that fail to certify their compliance with company policies, and provide greater notice of its use of facial recognition. Facebook had missed compliance with the order will be managed by an independent committee on Facebook's board of directors, which Zuckerberg will not appoint. Facebook spent months negotiating the settlement with the FTC, and any future potential violations would likely require similar deliberation and delay. That makes it a weaker, while the new agreement removes a major burden weighing on the Menlo Park, California-based company. It is still grappling with investigations by other authorities in the US and the European Union. In addition, a federal judge in California in May declined to dismiss lawsuits brought on behalf of tens of millions of users who blame the company for allowing their private information to be shared in the Cambridge Analytica scandal. The FTC itself is also poised to continue scrutiny of Facebook. as part of a broader, and the Justice Department's Antitrust Division disclosed plans Tuesday to scrutinize tech platforms following mounting criticism across Washington that the companies have become too big and powerful. The department didn't. We have heard that words and apologies are not enough and that we need to show action, Facebook said. By resolving both.
Raindrop, drop top, smoking, no cooking the hot bar. Fucking on your bitch, yeah, that.